Good morning, everyone. You are watching Barnstable this morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me live on the phone from the Cape Cod Mosquito Control Project, I welcome Assistant Superintendent and Entomologist Gabrielle Sokolsky. Gabrielle, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
Good. Well, we'll see.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Certainly, mosquitoes this time of year, we have a lot of them. Can you, for the folks who may not know what the Cape Cod Mosquito Control Project is all about, can you kind of give a brief synopsis as to what you guys do over there?
We have 23 employees. We take care of all 15 towns in Barnstable County, and our crews are out there at this very moment checking all the standing water, looking for mosquitoes developing in that standing water, and if they find it, they're treating it with a larvicide, something that kills mosquitoes in their developmental stage.
And what the purpose of the Mosquito Control Project is to kind of monitor any disease-carrying mosquitoes, monitor the population of mosquitoes themselves?
Certainly, that's part of it. The monitoring is part of it, and then the controlling is the other part of it.
And how do you work to control the population?
Just as I said, we've got people out there. I've got 9 crews that are out there at this very moment checking water, looking for mosquito larvae, and then this time of year what they're doing is treating the water where you find mosquito larvae with a larvicide, a product that will kill them in their developmental stage. The other things that we do are, this time of year, a lot of education. We get a call from somebody, they say they have a mosquito problem. My crew will go right to their house, they'll take a look around, and perhaps they have a tarp that the rain has been sitting in for a few days, and now they've got mosquitoes developing there. So my crew will educate people, you know, this is where your mosquitoes are coming from, and if you just dump out that water, the mosquitoes will all die.
And that's really one of those things that we all have to be vigilant about, is that standing water, because that's where they breed, right? That's where the mosquitoes breed. They reproduce, and reducing the amount of that standing water on your property can really help out with getting rid of mosquitoes.
Exactly. If you have mosquitoes at dusk, when it's dark out, those are most likely freshwater mosquitoes. They don't fly very far from where they develop, and they're developing in that fresh standing water. My crews have maps and go around to the swamps on Cape Cod, but they're not going to know if you have a bucket in your backyard. So it's very important for you to go around your yard. You're helping yourself.
Absolutely. Gabrielle, talk to me a little bit about disease testing, because I think this is something that we certainly pay attention to, whether it's Eastern equine encephalitis or West Nile virus. Talk to me about how you find the mosquitoes and how you test them for these diseases.
Sure. I have a number of different trap sites around Barnstable County, and on a weekly basis I'm putting out traps, and these type of traps that I'm putting out are going out on Mondays. I'm picking them up on Tuesdays. We identify the mosquitoes, the species, and then we key in on those species that are potentially carrying disease. I put those in containers on ice and ship them overnight to the state labs. So actually Thursdays is the day we find out whether we have any disease on Cape Cod. And really in Massachusetts, the 2 diseases that we're looking for are Eastern encephalitis and West Nile virus. And
I do understand that there was at least one mosquito or group of mosquitoes here in the town of Barnstable that did test positive for West Nile virus in Marston's Mills. And that's something that it's happened this time of year for the past couple of years in a row.
Exactly. It's the same location as we had West Nile positive mosquitoes last year. What it is it's a pool of mosquitoes that I'm sending in. So it's a group of mosquitoes collected at the same place that are the same species at the same time. So that was a pool of 47 mosquitoes that I submitted to the state from that Marston's Mills location, and they tested positive for West Nile virus. What that doesn't tell me is how many of those mosquitoes tested positive. 1, 47, I don't know.
Exactly, but that's the type of thing. It's not a huge concern when it's just in that small area. What does that tell you when you do come back with those positive results?
Well, the first time I pick it up, first of all, I'll go back one step. The Department of Public Health sets out risk levels at the beginning of each season. Now, all of Massachusetts is at a low risk for West Nile virus all across the state. And that's actually a step up, because it sounds like low would be the bottom, but actually remote is the bottom level. So we've already started out at a low level of West Nile virus. So you assume that it's in your area in birds, because birds are where the disease is being carried around. So to get one pool of mosquitoes that test positive for West Nile virus at one time means that, yes, there are birds in the area that are carrying the disease, and that mosquito bit one of those birds and picked up the disease. now what we're looking at is whether we continue to see disease in that area or if we start picking it up in more areas where it's more sustained week to week. That would eventually raise our risk level. Right now we're still at low risk. It should be a reminder to everyone, though. Get out there, empty your containers.
Absolutely. And on that vein, I know we talked about getting rid of standing water. What should people do to protect themselves against mosquitoes? I mean, they're annoying. No one likes to get bitten, but it can potentially bring disease. So you do want to be vigilant. What else can people do to protect themselves against mosquitoes?
Well, there are a number of different mosquito repellents that are on the market right now that have been tested and proven to be effective and safe to use as long as you follow the directions on the label. And one of the ways you can tell whether these repellents have been tested and proven effective and safe is to look at that repellent that you're buying at the store on the shelf and see if it has an EPA registration number on it. That will tell you that it's been approved and it's effective. And in places where there's disease, there are certain active ingredients and repellents that the Department of Public Health and CDC recommend. There are actually 3. I know everybody thinks of DEET, and DEET is the gold standard. It works for everyone. There are different levels of DEET in products. You should pick one that you feel comfortable with. But there are also other products on the market, active ingredients like picaridin or oil of lemon eucalyptus, which maybe people prefer to use.
Absolutely. So certainly read those labels, be careful. Can we talk about the mosquito population on Cape Cod as a whole? Are there, you said you're in all 15 towns testing for mosquitoes, looking at mosquitoes. Are there areas here on the Cape that are more susceptible to having mosquitoes, or is there a more popular mosquito destination, I guess, for Cape Cod?
It changes all the time with the rain. Because if you watch how these storms pass over Cape Cod, it could be raining. Well, the other week it was raining at my office in Yarmouthport, but not in my house at South Yarmouth. So it's really that specific. It's the mosquito populations are going to be based on the amount of rainfall because that's creating your standing water, and it's just going to depend on that week where it rained.
Exactly. So the mosquitoes go with the rain, and I would assume that summers that are rainier than others, you see a spike in mosquito population.
Right. So this year we are still, even though our trend is declining populations by now, our trend is still higher than our 10-year average, and that's just because we had so much rain in June. We're still catching up with that.
Absolutely. And do mosquitoes breed year-round, Gabrielle, or is it something, I mean, I know that really the summertime is where we see the biggest amount of mosquitoes out there. I think it's probably because we're outside a little bit more often, but do they go away during the colder weather, or are they here all year round?
It depends on which species. So we have about 25 species commonly found on Cape Cod. There are certain species that overwinter as adults. So they'll hatch in the fall, they'll be flying adults, and then they'll go into people's houses. I'll get calls in the middle of winter. I have a mosquito in my house. It's overwintering there. It's kind of hibernating, so it won't bite you necessarily, but it may be carrying disease from last season to the next season, for instance.
Exactly. Now, 25 species, that's a lot of different species of mosquitoes. I think to the average person, they all look the same. Are there big differences between the species?
Oh, you're asking the wrong person. Of course there are. And I think they all look completely different. But the thing about the species of mosquitoes is that if somebody's having a mosquito problem and they can bring me a sample or save a sample of that mosquito, those species are very specific about the type of habitats where they lay their eggs. So if somebody brings me a mosquito, I can look at it and tell you if it came from the cranberry bog that's abandoned down the road, or from the salt marsh, or from a tire.
Interesting.
So so it's important to know those differences because they can be significant. And then again, some species have evolved to be able to carry disease and others haven't.
So there are some you have to worry about and others that you don't. Interesting that if people can bring you a sample. So if say I was having a mosquito problem, if I had questions, what's the best way for me to get in touch with the Mosquito Control Project and get some answers?
Oh, call us, 508-775-1510.
Great. Well, Gabrielle, I thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us today. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Gabrielle Sokolsky is the Assistant Superintendent and Entomologist with the Cape Cod Mosquito Control Project. I'm Sarah Colvin.